Hello, this is the Bible in fewer words. We are Carol and Steve Wells. This is episode 100, the Book of Ruth, chapters 1 through 4. If you enjoy this podcast, consider supporting us at patreon.com/BFW. Hi, Steve.
Hey, Carol.
Episode 100.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. And also we have a new book.
A new book?
Yeah, and it's going to be a very different book than our last book.
Okay.
You know, the book of Judges had some pretty tough and gruesome things in it. Well, when you read the book of Ruth, you think, this is a nice story. What's it doing in the Bible?
And when you read the book of Ruth, we can read the whole book.
In one episode, if we get started.
Okay, let's get started.
All right, this is chapter 1, verse 1. Chapter 1, verse 1. Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their 2 sons migrated from Bethlehem in Judah to Moab to escape a famine.
Escape a famine. This is not the first time this has happened.
That happens all the time. And it's happening again here. So there's a famine in Bethlehem in Judah, and they're going to travel east to Moab.
So they're going to put all their belongings on a camel and then move over.
I don't know. They're just going to travel from there. The family's going to go.
All right. Verse 3. After they arrived, Elimelech died. Leaving Naomi and her 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion.
Naomi's sons married 2 local Moab women, Orpah and Ruth. After about 10 years, Naomi's sons also died, leaving her with her 2 daughters-in-law.
I guess the men didn't do well on the diet in Moab.
Yeah, and it's interesting that they married Moab women. You know, that's not something you would expect, but they did. So Ruth was a Moabite woman.
And what is wrong with marrying a Moabite?
Well, I guess it's okay because a man can do that because the Moabite woman, she's going to believe in their God. She's going to change religions. She's going to convert. And that's okay.
Okay. But it would not be okay for a man to just...
Oh, that would be bad. If he were to marry another woman and then change to their religion.
That doesn't happen, does it?
Well, I think that's what happened back when they had that problem with the Moabites, remember? The Moabite women, the men were
having sex.
And they were also worshiping the Moabite gods. And that's what got them in so much trouble.
Okay. And you just said Hebrew there, and I'm thinking, why does that not sound familiar to me?
Well, Hebrew, Jew, it's sort of the same thing, I guess.
Okay.
It's more of a language, really, than a religion, but it's kind of both.
Okay. Verse 6. Naomi heard that God had visited the land of Judah and given the people bread. So first God gave them a famine, and now he's given them bread. So she decided to go back to Judah to get some.
Naomi said to her daughters-in-law, "Go back to your mother's house. God will treat you kindly."
Okay, and so mother's houses, they weren't sisters, you think?
No, I think she's saying mother's houses.
Then she kissed them, and they wept. They said to her, No, we'll go with you.
Naomi said, "Why go with me? I'm too old to get married and have more husbands for you. And even if I could, would you want to wait for them to grow up and then marry them?"
What is the deal? Why would they marry her kids that she doesn't have?
Because their husbands died. And they were the property, really, of their husbands. And so you remember when a husband dies, it's the duty of the brother or some close relative.
Oh, yes.
To marry or have sex with them. And
so that they can produce a son in the bloodline of their dead husbands.
Right, so they can have an inheritance and that it will continue, their line will continue. And so it was really their duty to marry a close relative, preferably a brother. But Naomi's saying, look, I'm getting old, I'm not going to be able to have a son. And if you did, you'd have to wait another 20 years, so it's not going to work out.
Or 16, I guess. It could be 16 years. Yeah, then they might not be old enough they might be too old to have a baby as well. Okay, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's
for
just a
sure.
weird thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Orpah and Naomi wept. Orpah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave to her.
Naomi said to Ruth, "Your sister-in-law has returned to her people and her gods. You should do the same."
But Ruth said to her, "Don't ask me to leave you, for wherever you go, I'll go. Wherever you live, I'll live. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Where you die, I'll die, and I'll be buried there."
That's kind of nice.
It is kind of a nice allegiance to her mother-in-law. But, Steve, is it possible that Ruth's home life before she married Naomi's son wasn't great and she doesn't really
Well,
want to go to her family?
of course it's possible, but there's no indication of that in the text. A lot of, there are some who say that there was something special that was going on here between Ruth and Naomi. There was a romantic thing going on.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's that, but there's no really indication of that in the text either.
Yeah.
But some people make a big deal out of that. So Naomi let Ruth stay with her.
Okay, chapter 2. A rich relative, Boaz, of Naomi's husband, lived in Bethlehem.
Ruth said to Naomi, "Let me go glean some grain from a field. Maybe the owner will see me and like what he sees."
Naomi said, "Sure, go ahead and do that."
So Ruth went to glean from Boaz's field. Boaz asked his servant, "Who owns the damsel who is picking my grain?"
The servant said, "She came with Naomi from Moab."
Boaz said to Ruth, "Go ahead, glean all you want."
Then Ruth fell on her face and said to Boaz, "Why have I, a stranger to you, found grace in your eyes?"
Boaz said to her, "You're not a stranger to me. I know all about you. I know that your husband died and that you and your mother-in-law left your country to come here. Come and eat dinner with us."
So she ate dinner with them.
Then Ruth went back to the city and showed Naomi what she had gleaned.
Naomi said, "Where did you get all this?"
Ruth said, "From Boaz's field."
Naomi said, "Boaz is a close relative of ours." So they're thinking now that maybe Ruth can, become Boaz's property.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're thinking this is working out okay.
Because then they can continue that line
Yeah,
of the seed.
it's all going to work out.
So chapter 3, Naomi said to Ruth, "It's time to find you a husband who can take care of you. How about our rich relative Boaz? He'll be winnowing the grain tonight on the threshing floor."
So take a bath, put on some perfume and your best clothes, and go to the threshing floor. But wait until he's done eating and drinking.
Then go in, uncover his feet, and lay down beside him. He'll tell you what to do next.
So Ruth went to the flushing. So Ruth went to the threshing floor and did everything Naomi told her to do.
After Boaz had finished eating and drinking, and was a bit drunk, Ruth came quietly, uncovered his feet, and lay down beside him. At midnight, Boaz was afraid and saw a woman laying at his feet. He said to her, "Who are you?"
Ruth replied, "I am Ruth, your handmaid. Spread your skirt over me."
Ooh, that's quite an offer. So then Boaz said to her, "Stay here tonight. In the morning, I'll check with an even closer relative of yours to see if he wants to perform the part of a kinsman." So that's the phrase for having sex with your sister-in-law. So that's important that she have a child so that that child can then get the inheritance and then kind of support her with that.
And continue his name.
Yeah.
He needs a son, the dead husband does.
So,
If he doesn't, I will, he
Okay,
says.
so Boaz says that. If he doesn't, I will. Like if he doesn't perform the part of a kinsman, if he
Right.
won't have sex with you.
I'll do it if he won't.
So Ruth lay at Boaz's feet until morning. So I guess it's possible that nothing happened that night.
Oh, sure, it is. Although there's a lot going on here. The laying at his feet, uncovering his feet. Feet is you know what that is, right? We've talked about that before.
Have we specifically said that feet can be a euphemism for penis?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just
several
wanted to say
times.
it again.
Yeah.
And then there's the whole thing about skirt. Like, men wore long robes at the time.
Putting your
so-
skirt over somebody's head would be kind of an interesting thing.
Yes.
Yeah, so it does sound like there's some kind of hanky-panky going on here that night.
But, I'm just going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say, wait. We have to wait until I check with your...
It doesn't say explicitly, and it's possible that they just got to know each other that night. That's all there was to it.
Maybe Boaz is doing what he thinks is right in his mind.
Well, yeah, sure.
So, Boaz was sitting at the city gate when the other close relative of Naomi's dead husband came by. So he doesn't have a name or anything, this other
No,
guy.
just some of the relative.
And Boaz said to him,
Naomi has returned from Moab, and she's selling some land that was owned by her husband Elimelech. Since you are his closest relative, you have the right to buy it. Do you want to?
but if you buy the land from Naomi, you must also marry Naomi's daughter-in-law, Ruth, and have a son with her to carry on Elimelech's name and inheritance.
The close relative said, Well, then I can't buy the land, so you can if you want.
So Naomi's closest relative took off his shoe and gave it to Boaz, who said, I have also bought Ruth, Mahlon's wife, to preserve his name and inheritance. Wait a second. Who said that?
That's
relative?
what Boaz said. So Boaz said, I'm buying Ruth, Mahlon's wife,
Oh, yes.
to preserve his name and inheritance. And the taking off the shoe thing, I think that was like kind of signing a contract.
I remember that.
Yeah. If something happened, if the close relative, if the brother,
Yes.
refused to have sex with the wife, she would take off
Her
his
shoe?
shoe and
Somebody's.
spit in it.
Oh, yeah.
It was very strange. I think that's kind of like spitting on the contract that you were supposed to do or something.
And this one, it's just presenting the contract or saying, yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So verse 13. So Boaz took Ruth for a wife. When he had sex with her, God made her conceive a son. It's nice that God's playing a role here, isn't
Yes.
it? Yeah.
Although all this other stuff they've been doing on their own, Naomi and Ruth.
I
and
think
Boaz.
so.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if always, but it's interesting how God gets right in there
And takes part.
It takes part in the conceiving children. It's interesting, especially sons.
Naomi took the child and nursed it.
Yeah, Naomi took the child and nursed it. You'd think she might be a little old for that, but she's doing it.
Uh-huh.
And why did she do it instead of Ruth? It's interesting.
Yeah, the whole nursemaid thing in the old days was something I don't really understand. Like, I think if you nurse a child, you can bring the milk back.
Yeah, I've heard that. The next verse kind of makes it clear.
Okay.
The neighborhood woman named him Obed. They named him Obed.
The neighborhood women.
Yeah, and they said, a son is born to Naomi. And yet it's Ruth's son, not Naomi's son. Strange, huh?
But I know that you and I have talked about when somebody has a son, you can say it's the son of somebody that's many generations before
Yeah,
them.
but here they're just saying it. This is just the contemporary saying, hey, Naomi's just had a son. Let's name him Obed.
Yeah.
So that's strange.
And then Obed was the father of Jesse and grandfather of David.
Yeah. So King David's grandmother was a Moabite. I have a lot of things in the notes about some of these things, like no Moabite for 10 generations will ever enter the congregation of the Lord. Well, it seems like
David is in the
David is
congregation.
at least descended from a Moabite.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it doesn't matter if the mom is a Moabite.
I think
and
that's
if
the thing here.
man
Yeah,
isn't.
could be. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well,
But it's kind of a nice story, isn't
it
it?
is kind of a nice story. I mean, are we going to be able to have a whole book in one episode in the future?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
In the New Testament, that'll happen quite a lot.
Oh.
In fact, there will be some books in the New Testament that we'll cover in a single episode.
Really?
Because some of the epistles are just so short.
Okay. I look forward to those. That is encouraging.
But next, we've got Samuel, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, before all of that. So
Before that is a lot of first and seconds.
yeah, we've got 6 books coming up that are history. And, well, you know,
Okay.
they're called history. And so we'll be doing those.
All right. Hey, thanks, Steve.
Sure.
Thanks, listeners. Bye-bye.